It's another beautiful Tuesday evening in Chicago. Hello, Kira Macoun here with your Tuesday edition of Chicago Corner, and welcome. I am so glad you're joining us, whether you are live in the chat, and I see you, Extra Bulla, Pat, and Kathy. What is up? Welcome. So, early birds to the show. And you know what they say about early birds. I don't know, something about worms. But joining me tonight, as always, are two hosts with the most. Jerry Vasilatos, welcome. Hello.
Well, here I am.
And Mr. Ed Heller, what's up?
Yes!
The Rokfin's working.
You know, the Rokfin is working. We're on Rokfin tonight. I figured it out. And you know what's the funnest thing to our viewers and our audience about being backstage during the countdown and the show open is watching Kira groove to the Chicago Corner music before we go live. I wish I could broadcast that.
No, it's okay. So I have a thing where first of all, if there's music playing in general, I just can't not be moving to it. It's a thing that I have. I don't know what it is. Maybe, I don't think it's really like infringed on my quality of life or anything, but it could be some sort of like physical thing with me. But it's also super groovy. So I've been
really charming to watch you get in. It's like it's your show. It's your warm up. That's what
I'm getting ready. And then today I was thinking how this move looked really good across the body.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I've been working on making my left arm as smooth as my right arm on that move. And I'm still not there. But I'm working on it. These are the things I work on in my spare time. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah.
I had a fun show with Kid earlier. We had a really good show on the Hardlands Media broadcast.
Yeah.
Covered a lot of fun stuff. Oh gosh, well we got to talk a little bit about the fact that the SEC is making sure to bring Kim Kardashian to justice while ignoring all the hedge weasels and Wall Street criminals like Ken Griffin who are regularly manipulating the stock market every day. What else did we talk about? We also talked
Kim Kardashian must go.
She must go down. Well, that's, it's all a distraction. And we also talked about.
Yeah, she already settled. I saw stuff. She just paid him.
It's like what they did with Martha Stewart back in the 90s. It's like, let's, give a celebrity. Let's make it look like we're doing something when we're actually in bed with and colluding with all the Wall Street criminals who are ripping off retail investors every day.
Yeah, except Martha Stewart actually did jail time.
That's true.
Yeah. Which
got to pay a fine,
which she turned into a second life for her career, her celebrity career. She did that whole series with Snoop Dogg, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that I was like, props, Martha, man, you turned a bad situation into profit. Way to go.
We also covered how Joe Biden announced, I think yesterday, that he was giving, I think it's $60 million in aid to Puerto Rico to start reinforcing their infrastructure and the levees, because we didn't learn from the last hurricane that hit Puerto Rico when Trump was out there throwing paper towels.
I thought all they needed was paper towels. Yeah.
Excuse me, Jerry. How many billions with a B, have been sent to Ukraine?
That's what we were talking about, Ed. The fact that 70 million to Puerto Rico, and I forgot how many billions are going to the Ukraine. But the point
is, it's
at least 100.
I know.
Counting.
I think it's maybe 200 billion. But the other point of the story being, this isn't sudden. We're basically closing up the barn doors with the 70 million after the horses have left the barn. It's not like we didn't know another hurricane could hit Puerto Rico since Trump was down there throwing paper towels. So why, coming into office, didn't Biden and Congress appropriate or send not aid, but proactive funds to Puerto Rico to start reinforcing things before the next disaster happened this past weekend?
Listen, Jack, I grew up in
right
in a household that was something Puerto Rican, and haven't anybody seen my keys
or my chain?
He is a dementia-addled elder being abused by the neoliberals of the Democratic Party, who elevated him there to basically carry on, all the neoliberal policies of Obama, Clinton, the Bushes, going back as far as Reagan. Okay, Reagan started all this deregulation that's led us to this disaster, and he has been, he was aided by quote unquote Democratic presidents after him to just, anyway. So that's some of the things we were talking about with Kit over at Hardlands Media on the national show.
It's always good. It's always good conversation. However, it always very much feels kind of like a little hopeless.
Yeah, it does.
It feels so big, and that, I mean, in earnest, that's why I came over to Chicago Corner, because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna I'm gonna do what I've always done in my organizing, which is like, shift my neck of the woods, like do what I can over here, inside of people's lives here in our very close communities, and then hopefully that'll have a ripple effect outward. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy those conversations on a philosophical level of talking about like basically systemic failures and how our system is completely fucked, and then talking about like the players that are a part of that who continue to just reinforce those. But then what we always got into at Hardlands that I remember is like how we reinforce it as voters as well. And so
it's
that
overwhelming.
it's very overwhelming. And so, so I'm, Jerry, I'm glad you're the man doing the job.
Look, over here we talk about, for all the bitching we do, at least locally, we try to find solutions.
Yes.
And we do talk about solutions when we do the national show, but participating in the national show with Kit, it can get overwhelming unless we insert whatever comedic observations regarding the absurdities of our world into the conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
like that.
Make it like Jake and Elwood do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that it's, and I also think that I think there's some importance in that as well, because, as we all listen to the news, I think a lot of people start to feel a lot of doom and gloom, and to actually feel like there's a community that you can speak out in and be a part of on whatever level, national, local, or otherwise. It's nice to be able to provide that, and it's nice to be a part of it. So, and happy National Taco Day.
Oh, is it Taco Tuesday Day?
It is National Taco Day on Taco Tuesday, Jerry. Yes.
She sounds like in that context, it's like she's getting goosed.
Yeah.
Right?
She is one of the Pinky Pigeon sisters from a great old classic movie, The Odd Couple.
Yeah. And then also, real quick before we get into any of the, harder hitting stuff, we also caught wind this week that Chicago was named the best big city in the U.S. for the 6th year in a row by Condé Nast Traveler Reader's Choice Awards, which have been ranking cities based on travelers' experience for the last 35 years.
Not the crime stats?
No. Well, that was what's so funny. I read the entire article on that, which is, I think, did I bring it up at all? Yeah, so I'll show it off a little bit. Let's see how fast I can do this. Am I getting faster? No, I'm not. Nope. The answer to that question is no. Here we go. So, so Chicago was named the best big city. And I do got to say, like, Chicago is a very, very, like, badass city. It's
Yes!
and my sentiments exactly. Okay. So yeah, it's no wonder Chicago is topping its list again. It's a world-class destination known for its impressive architecture, first-rate museums, brilliant chefs, and massive brewing scene. And it'll take several repeat visits to get through your list of
Let's not forget the bean.
Don't forget the bean. We're gonna have a second one on top of it.
That's right.
Fucking bitch, am I right?
And while you're
Oh! I beg your pardon. What did you say?
Fun with buttons.
And while you're here, you can get your abortion. All that. We got
There you
casinos. We got NASCAR coming.
Oh,
We're fucking amazing. So, but in all seriousness, like I do love our city. I know that we have our fair share of issues.
Yeah,
but do I love
they're calling it it's the best of the big cities because of and in spite of our terrible mayoral people. And
I'm glad they clarified the in spite of. That's good.
No, I'm saying
Okay.
in spite of that and in spite of our recent crime wave.
Yeah.
You know. We got to put the logo bug on that, Jerry.
Yeah, I'll work on that. I missed that. Sorry.
Okay.
And then Kathy's asking, did Lightweight write that?
She did acknowledge it on her Facebook page because, of course, she would.
Didn't she come up with some catchphrase during the budget meeting that we're going to get to later about you can clap for that or something?
Yeah, that's. I remember.
She loves her catchphrases.
The exact thing I don't have in front of me. I can check the Slack and see.
Okay.
Yeah. So go us 6 years in running. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't get out and visit a lot of other cities, but what cities have rivaled in your guys' estimate that you visited?
To Chicago?
One of the best cities that you visited in the United States.
I've spent brief time in New York, was never impressed because of their grid system. The lack of a grid system that puts garbage out in the front of buildings. And it was I've always described Chicago as a clean New York, a cleaner, more manageable New York, because, for all of its deficiencies in leadership, generally it's pretty clean downtown and we've got a beautiful lakefront. There's no comparing it with Los Angeles is a I used to live out there. Los Angeles proper downtown is a toilet. Sorry to say. If you want to go to California and visit nice areas, you got to go to Long Beach. I'm sorry I'm doing this. I've got some bad cramp in my neck. If you guys are wondering as I'm talking, it's not that I'm distracted. When you're in California, Long Beach, San Diego, those are the nice cities to visit. But as far as like a major metropolis, I would also say Minneapolis is a nice city, but not as big and as Chicago is with everything that's available to us here.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed Denver. Denver was a really nice city, and I really like the scene there. So yeah, but go us. So I just wanted to throw that out there, a little boost before we.
How about you, Ed? Other cities.
What was the question?
How do you fare Chicago with other cities you visited?
I think obviously I'm biased, but I think Chicago is better as far as the people in general. It's just and I'm generalizing here, but I think I think Chicagoans are much more centered in their reasoning skills and their getting along with people. I mean, with the exception of those of us poisoned by lead in the brain and the occasional road rage, I think Chicagoans are much more chill than New Yorkers or East Coasters.
Yeah.
I think we're more likely to be able to get along with people from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends who have moved here because they love Chicago who aren't natives, which I think really speaks to what's great about our city, which is why we're so passionate about, protecting it and trying to get people to run it the way that it should be run.
I really love what Pat said was we face our issues and that's why people know about them and we don't hide it here in Chicago. We're pretty loudmouthed when it comes to our politics.
That's for sure.
And I don't want to and I don't want to dig all the negatives out. I mean, we talk about all the negatives all the time. You know, I mean, segregation is a problem. We got to fix that.
Huge. It's huge.
You know, and then all the other stuff that goes with, you know, the inequities that go on in different parts of the city. But,
and we're going to be touching a little bit on the conversation for equity today too, but it's in context outside of the city. So, I mean, there's obviously a need for it everywhere, but I do think that Chicago definitely is guilty of some incredible inequities in history that we still have a lot of work to actually correct. Fear und DB says Houston is nice, but its public transportation is lacking and most of it isn't walkable. Jimmy says, I've been to Chicago twice and the people were lovely. Pat says, if you walk around, most folks will smile or say hi. At least I make eye contact with everybody. I like, if people are willing to look at me, I will make eye contact with them and say hello. It's very interesting. It's something that I only recently noticed about myself. Kathy says Philadelphia is a junior. I actually thought Philadelphia was a really cool ass town. And then we got Kansas City had free public transportation for 3 years.
We have to work on that.
Yeah, and then Chicago, the best city. Chicago pizza, second best.
Very funny, Uncle Warren. You know, I'm gonna be the last judge on Chicago Corner to decide on whether Chicago pizza is better than New York pizza. And since it's been a very long time since I've been to New York, I'm gonna withhold judgment, or at least final judgment, until I get a chance to go on that New York pizza tour, because that should be pretty definitive as to different styles that exist in New York. And I know that we have a lot of pizza in Chicago. In fact, there's a lot of places in Chicago that do other cities' styles better than the original. But
I had some delicious Chicago's pizza the other day from Montrose. They're also on Lincoln Ave. They're not sponsors, but I'm always going to sing their praises. They're over on Lincoln Avenue, Montrose Avenue, and Irving Park. Chicago's Pizza, great pizza spot. We need to hit them up to be a sponsor of the show since I'm such a big fan.
Or any pizza spot, really.
Or any pizza spot.
So we had mentioned that Lightfoot has a new catchphrase, and this is where I saw it first.
Wow.
Anthony Moser, he does music, but he also submits a lot of FOIA requests. So that's why I follow him, because occasionally he'll send us some information about what's going on in the city that we're not even on top of, but he's already filed a FOIA to get more information. And I'm like, dude, how are you doing that? But anyway, so here he is. He says, LMAO, Lightfoot says, I should use her voice. That's a big deal, and you can clap for that. Is apparently something that she said more than once during her budget speech. So we'll have to try and see if we can dig that up.
What's the Jeb Bush video?
But here's the Cliff Notes version of that. Please clap.
He's your own biggest self-promoter to promote doing nothing. Optics.
Like, and now you can clap.
Yeah.
Please clap. Yeah, I didn't remember Jeb looking like, he kind of looked a little like young and thin there. I don't know why I always remembered him not being young and thin.
Yeah, that was when he was running. That was the primaries. He was running against Donnie Shortfingers and the rest of the Republican clown car.
Donnie Shortfingers. Yeah.
We thought. I mean, at the beginning, people, the normies were saying, "Oh, Jeb's got it in the bag," and then please clap.
I think Kathy shared with me either an email or Twitter. I'm sorry, Kathy, I lose track of all the stuff that's incoming, but I think Kathy was down there. I think that there was a protest in the City Hall lobby where people were setting up their tents to point out housing inequity.
Yeah.
And the fact that
we'll be covering that in just a moment.
I didn't look at the show notes, Kira, yet. I'm sorry. I was so busy setting stuff up. I don't even know what's to come, but I'm excited to participate in it.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely something that we'll be looking at as we go through, what actually prompted the protest, which is the budget that Lightfoot put together. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay. So Lightfoot released Okie dokie, Smokey.
Okie dokie, artichokey.
Artichokey. A smoky artichokey. So Lightfoot released her $16.4 billion budget today.
Wait, 16 point, how much was it?
$16.4 billion.
$16.4 billion.
That's a lot of money.
It wasn't.
$1 million.
I can't do there we go.
$1 million.
So there's a lot to cover with this single story. So hang on for the ride. We're going to probably web all over the place because that's how we do, but we're going to cover it thoughtfully and thoroughly and robustly and all of the other leads. So
like this has ever made a difference, constipational conservative.
That's hilarious. It's about time. Are you serious?
About time?
What do you mean about time? When are they not giving them money? When?
Well, that's why I keep
only in your imagination are they getting defunded.
Yeah.
They're never getting defunded.
That's why I always think that constitutional conservative is just a very funny troll. I do.
Well, he is very funny, and yes, he is.
I don't read him as being serious. It's he's being tongue in cheek about everything. I know that you know him personally, but his voice to me, it occurs for me like he's being sort of a ironic troll. So
here he is pulling up into the live chat.
Exactly.
Running for mayor?
I hope so. So anyway, first of all, there's a bunch of bragging going on that the shortfall is only projected to be $127.9 million.
Which actually, Kira, I believe the actual number is 171.
Yeah, it was. I think that you're right. I read that in a Twitter feed, and it was in regards to something that had happened in August. I wish I would remember what I read, but I think that you're right. There was something that happened that actually boosted that shortfall, even though that's what's being reported among most of the outlets here. So it's in a Twitter feed, though, Ed. So if you find it, just go ahead and pop it on up. And they're saying this is the smallest gap since 2019. And then last year's gap was $733 million. So it is a huge, it closed a big piece of this gap. But we'll get into the details of that. What's up, Jerry?
Thanks to the troll.
Yes, the ironic troll.
Thank you.
I love irony.
Isn't it?
I just love irony. It's one of my favorite forms of humor. And so constitutional conservative comes in here and says hilariously ironic things, and I love it.
Yes!
I think Ed and I hit that at the same time. Thank you, constipational conservative. It's always a pleasure. It's not that we want to shut down alternative opinions. You're welcome to your opinion and sharing it here, despite how wrong you are. We always enjoy the diverse conversation of.
I think it's just hilarious. Okay, I'm sorry. I just find it funny. Maybe I have an interesting sense of humor. And then Kathy's saying something in the chat, and all I can see is that capital B and capital M and bowel movement's the only thing I can think of with that acronym. So I might be missing something in regards to that. That was ironic, says Kathy. Yeah, we have more irony to cover. So LIFO keeps touting that this is the stability budget, and I'm not really totally sure what any of that means. But last year she labeled the recovery budget, and the one before that was the pandemic budget, which was a $1.2 billion gap. So,
interesting that the only way she seems to be able to balance our budgets is when she gets an influx of federal money. There's no balancing here. She's just got money from the federal, and fine. I mean, we need the money to go places, but for her to take credit for this because the federal government is shoveling funds into the city has nothing to do with her financial acumen or ability to, what's that say? We're underweight City Hall, we're mayor. Okay.
Yeah, so this is where we got the information that it wasn't exactly 129 million. It was more like 171 million.
Yeah, Heather Sharon, she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
And there's more in the there's more in the chat because I read that entire thread and it's quite informational.
She works for WTTW.
So the biggest concern that I'm hearing from alder people and from the general public, you just brought it up, Jerry, is that a lot of the social spending is coming from the COVID funding, the influx of all of that money, which I think was in the area of like $1.9 billion.
Last time she paid off the banks when she didn't have to, those loans weren't due yet. She decided to use federal money instead of putting it into the community for pandemic relief. She paid down Chicago's loans. So the banks got a lot of the federal money that came to the city that was supposed to help people. So that she balanced the budget by paying down the loans with the banks.
Well, I wonder what the interest on those loans were, and I'm guessing she's looking at that instead of maybe other outlets of like maybe not paying that much interest on our loans. Because I think that one of the ways that we drive ourselves into debt in this city is that we take out these high interest loans from banks instead of implementing a public bank, which is something that like
no brainer.
Really, exactly. I mean, it's just a no brainer. Absolutely. And I know that we keep talking about public banks on this show. I keep bringing it up because I think there are some really basic, simple things that we don't do that would actually turn around progress really fast. Because I think a lot of us think about doing sort of more like progressive ideas in government, but like, well, it's going to take time and all, to actually really like feed back into the public. But I think there are a lot of ideas that won't actually take all that much time to turn around an ROI, right? So
it's not. It's not a priority because of all of the shenanigans going on with everybody's cronies. That's what it's all about.
Which are the bankers. The bankers are the cronies, right? And so that's why we continue to just like shovel over all this high interest fucking money instead of figuring out another way to do things. So any Hoosier. So that is one of the issues is just that we have this influx of money and that's how we're doing this. To boot, the city's finances will only continue to be pinched by the soaring pension payments as the city complies with the state law that's going to require Chicago's 4 funds to be funded at a 90% level by 2045, ensuring they can pay benefits to employees as they retire. So this big influx is going to be obviously going away. We're not always going to have it. And then also these pension payments are going to be greater. Although I will speak to the fact that she did prepay pension payments that weren't quite due yet, and of course that with interest rates and stuff also saved money for the future. So it's I can see again to your point, Jerry, where they're doing sort of like these sweep things under the rug kind of fixes instead of really implementing the kind of changes that would be actually transformational.
Like proactive solutions that would maybe provide more mental health services, provide more opportunities for youth, investment in the communities and the infrastructure, all the shit that the money that goes to the police department, where it should be going, right? And crime is still up. So, constitutional conservative, throwing more money at the police department has really lowered crime. Not.
No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't act.
There's people that
the numbers don't bear that out. The numbers actually don't bear that out. And then I'm just going over the chat real quick because I know that a lot of people are going to have shit to say about this stuff. So I want to make sure everybody gets seen and heard. Sometimes quotes are for a stable budget is on the front page, right? Talk about just a mouthpiece.
Sometimes did that, but they didn't talk about the lead in the water here. Interesting. So I guess they're in the bag for Lightfoot.
We should get money from the federal government instead of giving our tax dollars to southern states. So there is a big conversation right now about blue states paying more into the federal government than they take in.
Which, of course, is total bullshit if you really know how federal spending works.
Yeah, well, and Ed, if you want to give a quick,
the quick version is that you pay federal taxes and those are destroyed. They're not used to actually fund anything. The federal government doesn't need your money. They make the money. They can make as much money as they need to spend for anything that there are available resources for. So when you pay federal taxes, they're not going to pay for other states' stuff. They're not going to pay for your state's stuff. They're not paying for anything. Mm-hmm. That's why, and honestly, that's why Lightfoot wants the federal funds and she doesn't want to spend the city funds, because federal government can afford to send money to everybody to make us these glowing, shining city, futuristic cities. They're just choosing not to.
Yeah. And then Fear and DB says, hopefully we'll take another shot at the constitutional amendment to the flat tax sooner rather than later. I agree with that. That would be really great. That would give us a big influx of tax dollars on the city level.
Is Lainey in the chat? Hi, Lainey.
Yeah. Hey, Lainey. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, Friday.
Yeah. And then here's what Pat says. Government prints actual money. All right. So onward with this conversation. So on the other side of that, Chicago ended 2021 with a surplus of $318 million, according to the city's annual financial report. And that includes the $42.7 million property tax hike to offset the surging cost of inflation. So as we all know, our property taxes in Chicago was tied to inflation, and inflation is insane this year. So it hit the 5% cap. And Lori was like, yo, it's an election year. How about I not raise everybody's property tax to by 5%? Let's bring it down.
There was a silver lining to that cloud that everybody was worried about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, oh, thank God for election years, right? So, which is really a shame that is a phrase that I think everybody can really relate to.
She's going to claim credit for it when it had nothing to do with her balancing anything. She's just going to be able to take that opportunity and make it look like she did something and she's helping people. Meanwhile, make no mistake, if she wins and continues being our mayor, she'll just raise those property taxes next year.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You make up.
It was all me. I did it all by myself. Nobody helped. It was just me. Corona Destroyer. Your mayor.
Wow.
Halloween started early.
For sure.
That's right. We better get down to the Spirit Halloween and go get those Cabello costumes before they run low.
Yeah, the Cabello clones.
Cabello's, let's not start.
Cabello's clones. And we'll all just like wriggle
ourselves laughing our ass.
Seriously, we should all figure out which bar we're going to be drinking at on Halloween weekend, and we all show up as Kit Cabello.
And we have those crazy, terrifying masks on that look like it.
Different sport jacket, different fancy shirt. Newsmane and the goatee and the goatee.
Yeah, I'm in. All right. So under the measure included by Lightfoot in our 2021 budget, property taxes. Well, I already said all that. So Chicago's 2023 spending plan is the first that will reflect the revenues from a casino, which was Bally's, which cut her a $4 million. Well, cut us. If I say her, because I'm like, that was another election push, I'm sure, where she's like, okay, for signing on, I need money up front because I gotta do some shit here. So Cabelloween, yes. But yeah, the $40 million check from the casino. And then this year's budget also calls for the largest TIF surplus in the past 10 budgets, which is $395 million. Of that, the city's corporate fund will receive $98.3 million, and $218.4 million will go to the Chicago public schools. And then the mayor declared a $304 million TIF surplus in our 2021 budget as well. So those are the surpluses that they're looking at, including the non-renewable ones that we mentioned. Obviously things like property taxes are going to be raising year after year is my guess. And then I'll be curious to see what the casinos actually bring in and how they actually balance in the world of like their cost, right? And not only cost in the way of like how much money your taxpayer is going to have to fork over to make sure that a casino can smoothly run in its city, but also the human cost, like the social cost of it, the time cost, waiting in traffic. And I think that that's probably some of the bigger concerns that are happening. And at the same time, I think that most of us are just going to have to wait and see how that all unfolds with the casinos. And then, of course, as we all know, the NASCAR situation and how much that might generate or how much, the city of Chicago will be settling in lawsuits. All right. Not to create our future, but that is what I could foresee. Is all I'm saying.
I have some very, very quick. Something just popped up through the Chicago Tribune that is worth adding here. Something just happened. Okay, so via the Chicago Tribune, Governor J.B. Pritzker announces disaster declaration to help those affected by the Austin apartment building collapse. It's
developing news. Hey-o, there you go. Well, those people need help. Definitely help them. So let's get into the Chicago's conversation in regard to homelessness and why people were setting up a tent city in response to this budget. Okay. So Chicago's $16.7 billion budget in 2022. So we just talked about the 2023 budget. This year's budget included nearly $2 billion in spending on affordable housing, mental health, violence protection, youth job programs, and help for unhoused Chicagoans. And those funds can be spent during 22, 23, and 2024 under federal law. So that's $2 billion spread over 3 years. And according to one of the reports out of WTTW that I read, they said they were adding an additional $10 million for homelessness and related services to the 2023 proposal, bringing the totals to like $200 million for homelessness, $155 million for affordable housing, and $3 million for tiny homes. And activists are saying it's not enough. Let's look at a couple videos that we put in the. I can bring it up, Ed, unless you have these videos of the funds addressing homelessness here from YouTube.
Okay, hang on a second.
You
want the WGN one first?
Which one is this one? Yeah, the WGN one first, please. Okay. Yes.
Okay, hang on.
Also, I want to give a quick shout out to our Rokfin viewers. We got Miguel H over there. We got 5 people watching over on Rokfin. So join us on Rokfin also, and you can tip us there, and we get more money there than we get from YouTube monetization. So.
Last week, Mayor Lightfoot reworked the numbers and abandoned the property tax increase that had set her on a collision course with the alderpeople. Her change of plans should make the behind-the-scenes work of getting this passed easier. Mayor Lightfoot's election year budget increases spending for progressive priorities without raising property taxes.
What I have asked this body to do over 3 successive years, and now again today, with a 4th budget, is to be bold with me, to continue to right historic wrongs, so that all of our residents who call this beloved city home will benefit and be able to fulfill their God-given potential.
Except those living in tents and under bridges.
Yeah, and righting the wrongs, reopen all the mental health clinics.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why that's not, that's one of the things that I was going to say to him. Like, I don't understand why this is not part of the conversation. Yep.
Thanks to
it's not a priority.
$1 billion In federal COVID relief funds, Lightfoot is calling for investments in violence reduction, homelessness, and poverty. Mayor Lightfoot is asking City Council to approve $100 million for public safety.
Totally.
police
Excuse me.
That's what we need.
Excuse
That's what
me.
we need. More helicopters and more vehicles. That's definitely what we need more of.
Sorry. I just got to do
What a
it.
fucking bitch, am I right?
I'm doing the face palm here because
No, this is what was, to me, like, I look at that. There's other parts of this budget that I want to share a little bit about, but this one is a face palm. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
cop stuff.
Yeah, mental health is the key to any turnaround, completely constitutional conservative.
Okay.
For new police helicopters and cars. She's also calling for $200 million to prevent homelessness, $155 million for affordable housing, and $3 million for a tiny homes initiative.
Okay, tiny homes sounds adorable.
Isn't it?
They are kind of adorable, actually. I think tiny homes are very super cute.
You know that they did it. You know that they did some kind of a focus group on what to name it, right?
Yeah.
To make it all appealing and cute, so that everybody would think that she's actually doing something.
Yeah, it's
homes.
like yeah, we're gonna build
Tiny
these
home,
little
that's where she's
homes.
gonna move into. All 5 feet of her.
I mean, at least she won't take up that much space of her tiny home.
Actual size.
Yeah, but I also, yeah. So I have questions about the tiny homes too, but I mean, I think there's so many details, obviously, just because this is the first proposal of everything that's a little left out. So, I try to keep my cynicism, a little like at a simmer. Until I actually see what's happening. Yeah.
At this point, we just kind of have to pay attention to the different dollar amounts and what she's actually prioritizing the money for.
Well, what was the amount? So wait, so it looks like 155 million is more than what she allotted for the helicopters and vehicles.
So yeah, that was 100 million for helicopters and police vehicles, which they totally.
Well, what is affordable housing? Right? Well, they throw affordable housing out everywhere, so that the handfuls of affordable housing are in these big new developments where it's not affordable housing. So it's like,
yeah, I think affordable housing is based off a third of the income at a certain like if you're at a certain poverty level, you get housed at a third of your income. I think that's like how they break down those numbers. I could be wrong on that, but I've heard that before.
I love this.
And we should probably talk about how there's that 171 million budget deficit that she says she's going to have, right? Okay, well, you can knock that down to 77 million by letting the police buy their own damn helicopters.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and so much more. Like, why are we still paying for cop settlements when the cops murder people?
Well, yeah,
like,
that's a half hour talking about qualified immunity and insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
exactly.
All right, let's see what else here.
When you go back into negotiations with the police union, that should be at the top of the list of what you get. Say, hey, you guys want all this stuff? Great. Start having your officers carry insurance, or start having them shoulder the liability for all these settlements that we're paying out because they're not doing their jobs.
And now a whole great new industry is created, an insurance company for cops who want to be violent out in the street.
All right.
Gap.
It looks like a phone
lowest
book.
in Mayor Lightfoot's term, 128 million.
Which we know now is 171.
171.
Okay.
Year, coming out of COVID, the shortfall was 733 million.
At no time over these 3+ years have we shied away from making tough choices.
With the municipal elections less than 5 months away, it remains to be seen whether or not members of council will sign off on Lightfoot's plan. After crunching the numbers,
I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous statement. Isn't every choice you make kind of a tough choice? Because someone's always going to be against.
Yeah, it's fake platitudes for sure.
Yeah, come on.
And that's Vegas back, right?
Yeah, that's
my
everybody's
goodness,
favorite
something else we agree on. Agreed.
Yeah.
Just crunching the numbers.
Especially in
A
urban
key
cities
light
where we have the housing.
Yes.
But Ally is on board.
It's a good budget. We have good revenues coming back in, which means the city is recuperating in a good way with the business and economy.
But some alders are skeptical.
This is $16 billion in fiction that we heard today, and it's meant to be inspiring on the cusp of her hopeful reelection.
There's no clear path on how we're getting out of this hole.
And equity is, people talk a big game about equity, but truth is in the pudding.
Wait. She say truth is in the pudding?
She said that truth was in the pudding.
Truth
Yeah.
is in
The phrase is proof is in the pudding, but that's close enough.
Why don't you make like a, what is Biff, even Biff Tannen?
Make it like a tree and leave.
Make like
Yeah.
a tree, no, make like a tree and get out of here.
Yeah. I have no leg to stand on when it comes to like fucking up cliches.
It's awesome.
Neither do I, Kira.
No, we all do it. It's just fun when you catch it.
Literally.
They're like, no, literally, I don't have a leg to stand on. All right. Is there any more left on this one? Okay.
Progressive members of the council, the mayor is promising spending to support migrants shipped here from Texas, money for reproductive health care and the environment. Lotus and Ray.
All important.
All right, so let's pause
Okay.
it there, and we'll be eventually going over to the Tent City and City Hall
Yeah, I'll get that
video.
loaded up.
So we just did a report last week, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, about 65,000 homeless or underhoused in Chicago. And I did some digging around, and permanent supportive housing costs about $12,800 per person per year on average, which would cost about $832 million if we covered all 65,000 underhoused or homeless. And so when we look at the numbers, while on the one hand there are hundreds of millions going into homelessness to fully deal with the issue in a real robust manner, in a lasting and robust manner, it would actually cost about 4 to 5 times more than what they're putting toward it. And just to make things a little clearer for everybody, it is vastly more affordable to do that than put someone in a mental hospital or a prison or a nursing home. That would, saving us about $24,000 per person
Giving
if we
people
actually
homes.
just housed people.
Yeah, that's we've talked about this. It's part of our Chicago Corner Manifesto. It's the Housing First initiative, which they have done in the state of Mississippi, and they've done a couple other countries. It works. You give people homes. That's one thing they don't have to worry about. They can concentrate on the rest of their lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that also includes possibly being a contributing member of society. Maybe they'll be part of somebody's workforce. Maybe they'll start a business, small business. You never know. But it's a big hurdle for some people. When they can't afford to put a roof over their head.
And when people are given a chance, when people are given the benefit of the doubt, when people get their needs met, they actually have an opportunity to grow out of the position that they're in. And, there are many of us that do that for our family members, right? And then, what we look at is, saying, well, the city is the family. Like we're operating at the level of community, at the level of city, at the level of state, at the level of world.
It's what we've talked about before. You covered like doubling up. Although I said productive members of society, the truth is that people should just have a roof over their head, regardless of how they are able to contribute. People's lives have value, regardless of whether they have specific value to you.
Or to the capitalistic system in general.
Yeah. And so it should be the default in our society that everybody should have a roof over their head.
For anybody that claims socialism is not the answer, which is a story that we talked about on HLM today with Kit, comedian Bill Burr addressed on Twitter one of his critics basically criticizing Burr for thinking socialism is a good idea. Burr said, "How's capitalism working out for you?" Right? All the homeless people
under that system.
Right? Yeah. It's what rugged individualism for the rest of us, socialism for the corporations, Wall Street, the banks, and everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what people don't get.
Yeah.
They don't understand. They've been trained since birth to stigmatize free handouts unless you're the rich guy getting the handout.
Well, and not only that, I just want to point to Constitutional Conservatives' comment right here, where he says, sorry, I'm playing tug of war with someone. Yes, but we need more producers, Ed. I would assert we have enough producers. I would say that our producers aren't getting paid at a rate that makes sense for them to go to work.
Yep,
right?
They used to be.
I mean, as it stands now, I have a child, and if it costs more for me to put that kid into daycare than what I'm going to get paid, then it makes no sense for me to go to work. And as it stands right now, because of the federal minimum wage, because it's okay for corporations to squeeze the shit out of their employees for every single ounce of productivity they can possibly get out of them, people don't want to go to work in that environment, right? We have enough producers. We have people who want to produce. We have people who want jobs, but we have people that want dignity too. And sometimes dignity is a little bit more important than a job. So
I need to find a sub, because we don't have it, Kira, to what you just said, of like a crowd applauding. Because what you just said is gold. And you know what? That's going to be a clip for our social media that I will send. What a beautiful, absolutely perfect statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I know that it's tough to get by owning a business, and I don't make much more than what minimum wage workers in the city of Chicago are making, if I'm being honest. But I own my own business, and I call all of the shots inside of that money, that financial context, and I never leave home, and I take my baby to all of my meetings, right? So, there are certain benefits that I have to doing that and making the level of money I'm making. I can't imagine making the level of money I'm making right now and having to leave my house 8 hours a day. And 8 hours a day. Where are we living? Finland?
Right.
Really? Nobody works 8 hours a day, right? And if you are working 8 hours a day, then you're commuting.
Here we go with deciding to demean minimum wage work. It's always
we've been over this.
Too much money. Yeah, we have. Constitutional Conservative, we've been over it. Okay.
And actually,
anybody working that job to give you fast food is an essential worker. You don't like it, go cook at home.
Well, and if you look at foreign countries who have McDonald's, who have, those fast food restaurants, those people are getting paid well over $20 an hour. And they wouldn't be in those countries as an entity, I'm talking the fast food restaurants, if it wasn't profitable for them to be there. So we know that it's profitable for them to be in other countries paying wages that are well over $20 an hour, right? And it is... In this market, $20 an hour is barely enough for you to pay all your bills, your health insurance, everything, and get by.
It isn't enough. It isn't enough. I mean, honestly, if it had been kept up with inflation and cost of living, the minimum wage should be over $25 an hour. Mm-hmm. That's reality.
Yeah.
The fact that it's still $7.25 or whatever it is.
For decades, it hasn't caught up.
So I mean, it's a mindset, and I'm sorry to say it, you've been trapped in it through years and years of propaganda, through mainstream media, through everyone in your life going through who's being fed the same information, because we had these jerks who have been holding wages back for decades.
Right. And
and for you to say that a person who's working a full-time job doesn't deserve a wage that lets them afford to live,
you're part of the problem.
Over their head. That's a bad way of looking at it. Everybody
when
who
their
works a
companies are
full-time
making
job deserves
hand
a
over
full-time
fist.
wage.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you're and even if you're working part-time, you know, you still deserve that same base of pay.
Absolutely.
And people and you know, and of course, you know, the industries have developed over the decades to make it seem like we're crazy saying these things, but that's the truth. And that's why the businesses were having so much trouble getting people to come and work at fast food restaurants.
I'm just wondering where constitutional conservative is getting his burgers. If they're $1, dude, don't eat them.
Dude, where are you finding $1 burger?
Yeah.
Anywhere today.
Yeah.
Don't eat them. Just don't do it. That's not good meat, man.
Stop questioning economics and start focusing on dignity.
These value meals that you so greatly enjoy are done at the expense of workers' livelihoods, and so that they can pad the corporation's profits. That's
all right. And not only that, constitutional conservative, let's talk about economics. So why are they not required to share their multi-billion-dollar profits with their workers? Right?
No CEO deserves to make
it's capitalism that says we need to squeeze shit out of the workers, not economics that says that.
While enriching the CEOs who are making obscene amounts of money that aren't actually. Why does a CEO, every time I hear somebody talk about the fact that, well, if you give McDonald's workers more money, it's going to increase the cost of the hamburgers, and, you know, they can't keep up with that. It's like, well, that hasn't stopped them from, you know, when you talk about you don't want to give the workers a raise, why do you give the CEOs bonuses, right? Why isn't the money given to CEOs and bonuses raising the cost of a hamburger, constitutional conservative? Same principle, right? But I don't see those dollar burgers going up when the CEO is taking the lion's share of the profit for doing what? Continuing to feed the propaganda that a minimum wage worker or an essential worker who's behind a counter to make food for you because you're not home to be able to feed yourself or make the time. You think because you went to college and because you got a degree and you're doing what you're doing and the fry cook didn't, you're better than them. That's what that mentality comes from.
That's right. No,
that's what it is. I paid for an education. Mentality. I'm better than somebody else because they didn't go to school. They can't fucking afford to go to school. They might not have the generational wealth or have access to the loans to go to school to better themselves, but you know what? They're working full time so you can stuff your face on a $1 burger.
Yeah, and we should probably close off this conversation by just saying, and we got Jerry's voice moving without his face moving. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Just to say that commerce is not the same thing as capitalism. And that's where people get confused. You can have a business and not be in it to make huge profits. You can have a business just to have a business, so that you can be so, you know, to have a business that's, you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't make some profits so that you can invest back into your business, but profit should not be your only goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we are living in a bubble that says that profits are the most important thing. And it's just, you know, I think for some people that is a truth. And for me and us, I can confidently say that's just not a truth for us, right? That a business would be in existence for the sheer purpose of drawing as much profit out of it as possible. I know that is not, if that was the goal of my business, I would run it much differently, including not allowing people onto the platform and into my membership for absolutely no money. So,
and then one important thing I see in the chat, which is the other point, is that from Virund DB, the dollar menu works because nothing on it costs $1 to make. The margin on it may be small, but there's thousands of McDonald's. So they're making tons of money on their quote unquote dollar menu if they're still doing that. And I'll bet in some places they're not doing it anymore.
I mean, I barely ever
because
go to
their
McDonald's.
bean
I have no idea.
counters are saying, well, our profit's not enough in this area. We'll just only do it in this other area. It looks like Jerry is rebooting his video so he can sync up his audio, which is cool. In the meantime, what we want to bring up the Tent City video. We could do that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. All right, where was that? Here we go.
The mayor was delivering her budget address. Protesters gathered inside City Hall, demanding more money to fight homelessness. Activists staged this tent city in the lobby of City Hall. The group says Mayor Lightfoot's plan to use federal dollars to address homelessness won't work in the long run.
The solution is housing people. The solution is creating more homes. The solution is helping to prevent homelessness and dedicating even more funds to do so.
The group is calling on the city to raise the real estate transfer tax on high-end property sales, using that money to invest in affordable housing and services for the homeless.
Yep. So that's what we are pointing to with, that's what I was pointing to with those numbers in regard to how much it costs to actually house people, and taking the numbers from the latest report about underhoused and the unhoused at 65,000. That brings us in the mid 800 some odd $1 million. And so putting a couple $100 million toward it might put a little bit of a scrape into the massive issue. But as far as longevity is concerned, that would be one of my concerns as well.
Test. You guys hear me now?
Yep.
I had a buffering issue, so I had to restart something.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Well, it was pretty entertaining. I had one thing I wanted to share, which is what I was thinking was causing the buffering issue, as it's happening again. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
I can
I
hear
guess
you.
it's just my video. Let me just share this last commentary on socialism before we go on.
Can't hear it, Jerry.
We can't hear it.
Okay, I don't know why it's not. This happened last time I tried to run audio from Twitter. I guess there's an issue, so we'll save it for later.
Bummer. Okay.
Send me the link if it's.
I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Stand by. I'll send you the link here. If you can pop it up real quick before we move on. Here you go, Ed. Seems to be something with my Safari that's not allowing the audio to go through. This happened last week, so I'm not sure why that is.
All right.
Socialism. Hi, Bill, you redheaded fuck. I really appreciate the bluntness of that. How are you? Last week you mentioned you don't know why people demonize socialism. I was really taken aback at that statement. Oh, Jesus Christ. Every country that has tried socialism has failed, and it's responsible for tens of millions of deaths. All right, so would you say capitalism is working? When what is it? Like 99% of the wealth is in like fucking 2% of the people's hands. All of these cities, you're telling me this is working? You don't think capitalism is responsible for tens of millions of deaths? Anyway, Russia, Germany, China, Cuba, and most recently Venezuela have tried, or right now are socialist countries. As far as I know, whatever Cuba was trying to do, we prevented them from doing with a fucking embargo or whatever the hell we did. We've been fucking with them for 60 years.
If you're just joining us, this is Bill Burr responding to an angry message he got
about socialism.
Yeah.
So I think you're looking at like what a lot of people do is you look at your own country through rose-colored glasses, the same way you look at your own sports team like, oh, my team doesn't cheat, but your team does.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
Because people look at politics like team sports mentality, and they forget the fact that while you can support your country, supporting it doesn't mean you should leave if you're critical of it. Because we're critical of our country and our leaders because we want them to reach the ideals of which we were taught our country is supposed to be about. And that means taking care of everybody, including the vulnerable, including the homeless, including paying people what they're fucking worth and not judging them because they didn't go to college while we did.
Absolutely. I don't have much more to add to that. I mean, I certainly could, but I think this was a really great discussion. That was a bit of a surprise, and I love it. And there was one more thing I wanted to touch on, which we already did touch on a little bit with the budget before we fully move on, and that is the police budget going up. And for additional public safety investments, including the new technologies is what they're talking about. And then also increasing the number of full-time, which, with the way that cops are getting spread thin right now, that would seem like a choice that would be a good one. However, I'm just curious, again, if we actually combed through the numbers and looked at how many of the responsibilities we're giving to police officers that they have no business really being a part of, and how we could maybe take some of that funding and put it toward services that could actually, answer to certain calls where there is no need to have police or any sort of gun on the premises. Because there are many of those calls.
It's interesting how, it's so how clearly that because she doesn't want to ruffle any feathers before the election, she's not even considering redirecting any of the police budget funds to all the other things that we know will cause or help crime to go down. It's ridiculous.
It just increase incarceration, increase, more violence.
But, helicopters, we need more of them. We need more helicopters.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I don't love talking about this topic like it's a very simple one, but I think that when we just continue to pump money into something that isn't really showing to have the outcomes that we're looking for, we should start just stepping into it like it is a complicated conversation and not like that's going to make everything workable. And I think constitutional conservatives said something about morale being low and all of that, and it's like when these cops are getting spread so fucking thin because they're answering all these calls that they don't really need to be answering.
Well, it's not just that.
Their morale is also low because there's like a really screwed up culture within law enforcement that it's not so much about working with the community as much as going out there and being the cowboy that looks at everything as a threat. Not all cops. Actually, I've experienced cops in my neighborhood who pulled me over and were kind to me, but I'm sure the color of my skin also had something to do with that.
It's helpful, definitely.
Just the whole the world is moving forward, but the culture is stuck and they don't know how to adapt to it. So clearly that's causing some of their distress. We have to evolve, and part of that is reimagining how public safety works. And that also includes redirecting some of those resources into other areas where the communities can benefit other than cops on the beat. I mean, they can only do so much.
Yep, absolutely. One of these times we need to have we're working on it. When we have a Patreon and we get to do a Patreon show, I'll tell you about all of the privilege that I've gotten through my years of living the life that I got to live as a result of looking the way that I look, because I have many, many stories that are
we can all tell those stories.
So it definitely is helpful, and it's not just pulling some race card. It really is looking at the situation in an honest way and saying, wow, this population only makes up this percentage of the total population, but they're making up like a huge percentage of a prison population. And that seems a little hinky, just a little hinky. I'm not as fast on the buttons, you guys. So
we got you covered. We got you covered.
Get it.
Damn it, Jerry. Stop hitting the button at the same time.
Hinky. What does that mean, Vic? Hinky. I don't know, strange. Weird. Why don't you say strange or weird? I mean, hinky, that has no meaning. Why we say hinky? I don't want you guys using words around me that got no meaning.
I've been using that word in my real life these days, so it has seeped in.
I think it is a uniquely Midwestern Chicagoan phrase, as is jagoff, which we like to throw around when describing many of our elected representatives. So,
indeed. All right. So, time to move on. Let's talk about this pipeline health system, the for-profit health system based in California, which filed for bankruptcy. And they are owners of none other than, drum roll, please, Weiss.
We don't have a drum roll button.
Weiss and West Suburban hospitals here in Oak Park, filing for bankruptcy. Would you look at that? Is that shocking anybody? I don't think so.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Kathy Powers was right. Hashtag.
Wait, hold on.
In the latest breaking news.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Breaking. Kathy Powers was right.
There you go.
All right. So yeah, Pipeline, who owns these two hospitals, said this in a news release that it plans to continue to operate under the normal course of business under their Chapter 11 proceedings, keeping the hospitals open, but they said they will continue to pay salaries. Weiss has 650 employees. West Suburban has 867. The bankruptcy is a result of challenges, including rising labor and supply costs, lower revenues, and delayed payments from some of the insurance plans.
Coming soon, they'll tear down the hospital next to the parking lot and build more high-rises next to the parking lot, where they're also going to be building high-rises, taking an important hospital out of Uptown.
Which is exactly what it looked like the plan was over these last few weeks. If you remember Jerry's very excellent reporting over in the Weiss Hospital parking lot, talking to the concerned citizens who were over there taking up the space because they knew that parking lot was going up for sale in order to build high-rise apartments. So
high-rise overpriced housing while they're chasing people out of single residency occupancy buildings. And Kathy got into this on Twitter with Kappelman, who was, sharing we gave them $2,000 relocation fees. And Kathy was like, so did you check up to see if they actually were able to relocate? They were able to do this, that, the other, or are they living in the tents or the bridges? Because, Alderman Kappelman was claiming that, they followed all of the rules and regulations of the city's corporation council and stuff. But a lot of that conversation on Twitter was very spirited. And there were other people who were joining in. It's just like, are you only like following the rules and the law and not understanding to lead? You need to do a little bit more than just parrot what Chicago's corporation council or legal office has to say with how you're dislocating all of these people from single resident occupancy housing so that you can defer and allow these developers to build your cronies to build all this housing that's gentrifying Uptown.
And no constitutional conservative. I use my words very intentionally. Jerry,
I wasn't. Thank you for that.
And you talk to people. Oh, I thought you went and talked to people.
Well, here's what I did. On Kathy Powers' tip, I went to that parking lot and I was basically asking people questions what they were doing there. It wasn't journalism. It was me trying to hear what people have to say. Kira, I appreciate you crediting me that way. I thank Kathy Powers for letting us know what was going on so we could go over there and get the conversation from the people that were there, why they were doing it, and what they were warning against, or warning, which is what seems to be coming to pass now, as far as the continued gentrification of Uptown as a result of these deals that are done with developers who took over Weiss Hospital. Now they're going to file for bankruptcy. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Well, we can't afford to keep Weiss Hospital open, so we're shutting it down, and we're going to sell that land to put up more housing and that people can't afford in Uptown that are leaving or losing their house, their single residency occupancy. Single resident occupancy.
I mean, the city can't, do an eminent domain thing and say, look, we're taking the hospital. Can they?
They could.
I don't know if
the fact that they need, well, you would think that they should, given the fact that they need that medical center in that neighborhood.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's something cities should make a habit of. I'm saying if you got a company that basically was in the business of buying up hospitals so that they can let them fail and then resell the land to make a profit.
Right.
That's right.
And that company decides it's going to go bankrupt. Then I think that would be a situation where the city should step up and say, look, we're taking the land over. We're repossessing or possessing the hospital.
Because it serves an important function and and the thing was, this company had a history of doing this before, which is why everybody was up in arms, just like, look, past his prologue to what they're probably planning on doing.
Yep, absolutely. And so there was already a pretty big distrust with this company. Now the new company is a brand new company called Resilience, and it's a for-profit company run by some dude named Manoj Prasad, who I looked up, who's some sort of is it a geneticist, genomist? Is that a biologist and whatnot? But he touts himself as a hospital transformation leader since 1998. And so there are a lot of people in the neighborhood that are saying, like, good riddance, pipeline, don't let the door hit you on your ass on the way out. But there is also this wild card now of this obviously for-profit medical company coming in and doing this hospital transformation. Might just transform themselves into expensive apartment buildings, but no. Apparently this guy has a track record with health systems in Michigan, Texas, and Florida. I looked around to see what there was. I mean, and it was a quick search, to be fair.
Okay.
But all that I could really find were press releases.
Okay, I'm sorry, we have to address that. Okay.
I shouldn't have put it
up. He doesn't do journalism.
All right.
I say he does, and is really good at it. I watch you guys because.
Okay, number one, I know Jerry protests a lot when people call him a journalist, because what we do here on Chicago Corner is a far cry from what professional investigative journalists
Kira went to journalism.
Do.
Kira studies. That's why I give Kira that credit, because she studied.
Yeah.
I'm just.
I mean, I still
now
do
that's
punditry.
not
I'm
to
not
say.
going
I
and
mean,
getting
look,
stories,
and I have said before, if you say you are a journalist, then you are. So if you're doing work that informs the public, and you want to call yourself a journalist, do it. If you don't feel comfortable with it, fine. Yes, we're all commentators for sure.
The only reason I don't want to claim credit for being a journalist is because regularly we're commenting on stories that other journalists at Watch Chicago have done the work on. That's
part of the issue.
Yeah. Because we don't have the time or the resources to go do that. I'm very grateful that these writers at all of these different publications that we share the news from are doing it for us, and we comment and we provide the conversation here to talk about what we're reading. So that's the only reason I'm not taking credit for that, because I'm just like a guy with a big mouth here who's got an opinion. But I do think, based on the facts that we're reporting, what I'm sharing and hopefully stimulating the conversation around, kind of shine some light on what needs to be fixed and where we need to try to come up with solutions.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only reason Go ahead.
And secondly, yes, everyone comes because of Kira's smile. And thirdly, I clean the pizza crust out of my beard daily. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Constipational Conservative, for all the money we've made tonight. That we got to start guiding people over to Rokfin because we don't get the YouTube revenue. Thank you, though.
Yeah, no, thank you, though. Yeah, yeah, and I use that terminology because Jerry, I know how you feel about that, but I use that terminology specifically for that story because I know that you went out. And
thank you. Yeah,
you got the voices of the people.
I just went and shot some video.
yeah, that's what reporters do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man. I mean, we don't report on every story, but every now and again we get our asses out there and we get into the field and we say hey to people and we ask them what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's exciting when we get to do that. We should highlight the shit out of it, right? And we'd like to do more of that, which is why we are so grateful for your contributions, Constitutional Conservative. So, contributional conservative.
There you go.
That's better.
I like that.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, and from now on, start directing your contributions over on Rokfin Constipational Conservative. Thank you.
It's contributional.
All right.
Conservative.
Contributional conservative. So I mean, we're going to keep our eye on this story as always. But again, a little hinkiness going on in all of this that I don't think is that under wraps, if I'm being real honest. So I think it's very much out in the public what this was all meant to be in the first place.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts about that, guys?
It's just hilarious because it's like everybody expected it. And while they were denying it, no, that's not what this is about. It's exactly what it was about. And everybody knew it from their prior history. And yet they still let it.
Hinky. What does that mean, Vince? Hinky. Oh, strange. Weird. Why don't you say strange or weird? Hinky, that has no meaning. Why say hinky? I don't want you guys using words around me that got no meaning.
I don't see Kathy in the chat anymore because I'm sure she'd be chiming in if she, maybe she tuned out. But thanks again.
She said
Kathy.
that she had to step away.
Okay. So, okay. Well, she'll catch up.
All right. So, we have some unfortunate news, especially for people who are signed up with ComEd. But I have some fortunate news. We get to use this little corporation behaving badly. There it is. A little.
So glad you lifted in there.
A little throwback to my weekly little report on some corporations who really it kind of goes to the conversation we were having earlier, where corporations that above all will screw over everybody, screw over the environment, screw over whoever they need to, just to make sure that they don't have to take responsibility for what it is they're doing, and so that they can make the biggest profits possible at the cost of who gives a fuck. So the settlement ComEd tried hard to keep secret.
Wait, at the cost of what?
At the cost of who gives a fuck.
Oh! I beg your pardon. What did you say?
Exactly. So the settlement ComEd tried hard to keep secret reveals a little understood reality of the utility regulation. Your electricity rates include the cost of the utilities' negative legal judgments and settlements. Isn't that exciting? So the $140 million payout to two different plaintiffs, a worker who lost both of his arms in a fiery incident, and the spouse of that worker's uncle who died by electrocution, was disclosed in 2021 by the law firm representing the surviving plaintiff, without naming ComEd as the defendant. And with plaintiffs barred under the agreement from announcing the high-profile case had been settled, the news broke nearly 2 hours after the fact. And that is why we now have this information.
This is such a crock of shit.
Sure is. The Sterling case was noteworthy for the size of the settlement, which plaintiff's attorneys said was the largest contested liability personal injury settlement in Illinois history for a single person, as well as exposing the potential for similar ticking time bombs at any of ComEd's 1.4 million power poles. But it also now reveals a truth about utility regulation that is far from common knowledge and what we all suspected,
Wow.
which is utilities like ComEd routinely pass the cost of legal judgments and settlements through to their ratepayers, leaving the company's shareholders bearing next to no financial risk for negligence or even wrongdoing. So
Are they related to the Fraternal Order of Police?
What's that?
Are they related to the Fraternal Order of Police?
Oh, oh yeah, right. They're taking their notes from them. They're taking.
They pass their bad behavior, the costs of their bad behavior, onto their ratepayers, the way the taxpayers are passed the judgments for bad police behavior. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, no, you're 100% getting that right. And so all of these, and I said in my notes here, but wait a minute. I thought investors were the ones who are all taking the risk.
Right? Good point. Good point.
So more broadly, with no shareholder risk at stake in the numerous lawsuits ComEd defends each year, arguably the utility is incentivized to settle virtually every case. Insurance costs, too, are the responsibilities of ratepayers. So even if premiums rise due to exorbitant payouts, like in the Sterling case, shareholders don't suffer. The ratepayers do. So, and my initial thought is like, okay, yeah, well, of course, like the cost of doing business gets passed on to the ratepayers, but it's like, no, but you guys are being negligent inside of your business. Then you get punished for being negligent, and then you punish your customers. And you get to do that because your customers don't really have any other choices.
Corporations don't get punished, though, Kira. Don't you know that?
Land of the free.
So yeah, it's a theme today. We need a municipal hospital. That we need to do that to Weiss. We need to municipalize our electric grid.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
Go on, Ed. Preach it.
We need to give everybody houses.
And we need banking that's public.
We need public banking. I mean, these are not outrageous ideas. Other places do this, and they thrive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We just have a lot of resistance from all these people who are trying to get their own deal and then lifting up the ladder and leaving the rest of us behind.
Because capitalism is always the solution.
Mm-hmm. We should just privatize everything, especially things that people have no choice but to take part in, right? Like their health.
Yeah.
It's just fucked up, right? It's just a really fucked up system, right? Where you're just like,
we've been propagandized to accept for generations, and until I would opine that it was the emergence of the internet where people could get information elsewhere, not just what they're being fed on their nightly cable news, to suddenly realize, oh, there's a whole world out there that doesn't do things the way America does, and they're actually doing pretty well with how they take care of their citizens. Mm-hmm. I mean, this usurped the control of the propaganda here, which unfortunately too many people who still watch or get their news from cable TV, whether it's CNN, MSDNC, or Fox, they're not aware of the fact that they're just drinking the Kool-Aid.
It's a phrase that I call bootstrap brain. Where basically we've been propagandized for decades in America to believe that the only way forward is capitalism and everything should be privatized and everyone should be totally self-reliant and pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And if you didn't make it rich, or if you didn't become super successful or have,
they forgot to mention be born into it, because most are born into it. Hey, look, I'm not against making money. That's not what I'm espousing here. I think we all want to, but I don't need to make obscene amounts of money. I just want to make enough money to be comfortable, live a life that's fulfilling, not hoard it all at the expense of others not having anything. And that's,
and I don't think that's too much
capitalism
to ask for
promotes.
anyone.
Exactly. That's what capitalism is all about. And that's not what living in America should be about. That's not what the American dream is. Right, Oreo? He just hit the keyboard.
Right, Oreo.
Yeah, I mean,
Oreo's got some things to say.
Looks like it. He's stuck to the microphone.
well, he agrees.
Yeah. So yeah, the treatment of legal costs is in line with the virtually risk-free environment in which ComEd operates, thanks to a series of changes in the law over the last 15 years. So this is actually this is par for the course because of obviously laws that have gotten put in place such that ComEd gets to pass the buck. They bear no risk from customers who can't pay, for example. When past due accounts are written off and the amounts are above what the utility budgets are for base rates, ComEd gets to collect the remainder in a surcharge. So they literally don't have risk in their business. Everybody has to use their product, and all of the rules have been put in place such that they get to pass off any of the financial liability that it takes to run their business to their consumer, who has to have their product.
Yeah, it's a
like I mean, it's just like
it's a necessity. As is
every time they need upgrades, who do they come to?
Right, pay for pay for this, we need subsidies. We need. It's not. They call themselves public utilities, but they're not public. They're public as much as the public benefits from their services. But to me, a public utility would suggest it's publicly owned, and it does more than just enrich the companies.
Yep. So yeah, it's fucking bullshit.
Unfortunately, Pat, it doesn't seem monopolies are illegal anymore. Not here. Kathy, you missed out on a lot, so make sure you go back. Because your ears had to be burning, my dear, because we were giving you a lot of credit for things that you've helped bring to our attention.
And then they can't see beyond the end of their nose. They think only about themselves and their immediate needs rather than about other people or the more important issues relating to the future.
That's capitalism in a nutshell.
And and that would have you believing that is economics, right? As was the conversation that we were having earlier. And it's like, there's a conversation for supply and demand, but there's also a conversation saying that corporations are part of a community and an ecosystem that if they are raping, it's not going to last very long.
Pat, I refer to them as an excrement company, but that's just me.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm thinking about suing ComEd. Yep.
Fuck this noise, man.
I love that clip.
All right. So I had a bit of a surprising reaction to the next story, which is the one about Arlington Heights and the
Bears.
And there were two videos that Ed.
You want the long one or the short one?
I think they're both so valuable. Let's go with the long one first, and we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. Stand by.
Yeah, no problemo. So we're talking about the Bears and their move to Arlington Heights and a petition basically of some residents, some constituents really in Arlington Heights that were saying, no, we don't want to use public funding, public money to basically help move this deal forward. And but the devil, as they say, is in the details. So let's take a look at what this group was trying to do.
Taxpayers will foot the bill on a potential Bears move to Arlington Heights is front and center at tonight's council meeting, and council members just held a vote moments ago.
WGN's Dana Rebick is live in Arlington Heights with more on this one. Dana.
Well, just moments ago, trustees voted this ordinance down. It would have blocked the Bears from receiving tax incentives from the village of Arlington Heights, but trustees unanimously rejected that after taking public comment. And there was also a heated exchange between these board members and the man who introduced it.
Right. It's the most lucrative sports business in the world. The Bears have an estimated over $500 million a year in revenue. They're just valued at almost $6 billion.
Hold on. I want you to see who this guy is. Americans for Prosperity.
Americans for corporate prosperity.
The irony of this entire story is definitely not beyond me. I fucking love it. Let's keep watching.
It's like, this guy's going to be basically, well, all the citizens are in an uproar. They don't want Arlington Heights paying for anything of the Bears. But, have you seen all the freaking money that they're going to bring in? Is what basically what this guy is saying.
That the taxpayers will be paying to enrich.
We believe that they can pay for the development themselves.
The Bears seeking to transform the 326
Oh, wait,
acre.
hang on. He actually agreed with us? Wait, what? Let me play that again. Sorry.
No, that's why I said this story is ironic. That's why I keep calling it ironic. He's saying that the Bears have enough money, and that we shouldn't be footing the bill for the development, right?
Oh,
That's why
okay.
I said that he's from Americans for Prosperity is the ironic part.
All right. Okay.
I'm sorry.
We don't expect people like that to actually be on the side of citizens, Kira. That's why we missed that note.
No, we expect this guy to be trying to clamor all the free money he can for capitalism here.
All right.
Who introduced it?
Right, it's the most lucrative sports business in the world. The Bears have an estimated over $500 million a year in revenue. They're just valued at almost $6 billion. We believe that they can pay for the development themselves.
The Bears seeking to transform the 326-acre Arlington International Racecourse property into a dome stadium built along the northwest corner of Northwest Highway and Route 53. To the south and east, a multi-purpose entertainment district with restaurants, retail, hotel, office space, and housing.
Now, they say that they need taxpayer subsidies for the non-stadium portion of the project. Well, if the rest of the project is not viable, maybe they shouldn't be doing it.
Very well said. Oh my God.
Stadium will create more than 48,000 jobs, 9,700 of them long term, resulting in a $1.4 billion a year economic impact for Chicagoland, and would generate $16 million in annual tax revenue for Arlington Heights.
So this ordinance is not written specifically to the Chicago Bears project. It would prevent the village from providing any incentives for any project going forward.
Tonight, the village board voting on an anti-corporate welfare ordinance Brian Costin with Americans for Prosperity introduced last month. He says it would ensure all businesses in Arlington Heights are treated equally under the law and taxpayers don't have to pay for corporate subsidies.
Well, good for him.
My intent, and hopefully it's this board's intent as well, to take affirmative action on this proposed ordinance. And so I believe the appropriate affirmative action is to reject the petition.
Tying our hands is the most inappropriate thing we could do. It would be reckless. It would be irresponsible.
There's a possibility of a new NFL stadium in our town, and you're wasting our time.
Whoa, someone's getting paid up. Someone's getting kickbacks from the Bears. Someone's getting taxpayer money. Yeah.
Well, here's the
With
deal.
their hands tied in passing the
deal.
funding
Here's
bill
the deal,
that's going to
guys.
cost the residents of Arlington Heights.
No, here's the deal, guys. The petition was to disallow any kind of help in subsidization to any businesses ever. This was not just for the Bears. So that would take away certain things, like I guess Arlington Heights has this thing where they reduce the
is
amount
kind of
that
a poison
parking
pill.
costs. Yes. The amount that parking costs, for businesses, so they do all these things that like reduce the cost for shoppers, for example, in Arlington Heights, so that businesses can have more action on the weekends, for example, right? So that would be completely struck. Like basically any.
I didn't know this. That's why I credit Kira with being the journalist.
Okay, that's why this American for Prosperity guy is against it. Okay.
Yes, because I agree with him
I'm like,
about
is
the Bears.
This felt like upside down world, because I would say normally a group like Americans for Prosperity would be all about the capitalist profit motive and having a sports stadium, brand new, creating new businesses, blah, 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 profits would be something he'd be for. But it turns out, because it's a poison pill that
Mhm.
prevents funding for anything.
Yeah, it's for everything. And the thing about it is, like, the essence of like this Bears thing that he's talking about, I agree with him. I think the Bears should fucking ante up and put on their fucking big boy pants and take care of their own goddamn business, right? Unless they want to fucking co-op, and then maybe Arlington Heights can own the Bears, and then their citizenry can make the money from the profits that they make. Maybe then, the citizenry can invest and help that redevelopment. But I agree with the Costin guy here about the Bears. It's just that, yeah, when I was listening to more of the story, I was like, wait a minute. This is actually to get rid of all subsidization of any businesses.
He was trying to pull a fast one.
Yeah, and I don't really know I don't know what his deal is, and why he would want to do that. It seems like a big shot in the foot, in my opinion, for any sort of economic development and growth. But I do get behind the essence of what he's saying inside of this report, not necessarily what was inside of the petition that they were putting forward. So I just think that the nuance here is a little sneaky. And I think that's why I said this story kind of took me on an emotional roller coaster ride, because you look at Americans for Prosperity. It was founded by David and Charles Koch, who are a pair of billionaires who became some of the most influential conservatives in the nation. And they basically are some of the biggest, welfare queens that there are, like corporate welfare queens. They have gotten hundreds, if not billions, in government subsidies over the span of their business lifetime. And so for somebody from their organization to come in and very ironically say, no, we don't want any subsidies for any businesses ever, does feel a little ironic.
Yeah. We owed that to Kathy. Thanks, Kathy.
But yeah, so I mean, what did I say here? I think for me, there's a nuance in how we should be using government funding for-profit business, and it should be based in equity. So right there, I don't think Mr. Costin and I agree. But on this Bears thing, I could be persuaded. There's value in allowing development to develop naturally. Because business owners are going to be like, shit, a stadium, let me get in there, right? Let me get some loans so that I can, get a sports bar here. And that's how that kind of development ought to work. Especially with such a big ticket item as the Bears. They're going to bring in so many people. They should be able to foot the bill.
That's your corporate welfare, right? There's the socialism. Socialism for the Bears.
That's right.
Bootstrapping for everybody else. Rugged individuality for everyone else.
Exactly. I mean, and I got a PPP loan for my business, so I'm not this higher than mighty sort of business owner that doesn't take subsidies or anything like that.
We're not million or billionaires.
Exactly. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And that's definitely where, and when I say we need to have some nuance in who we're granting money to, this is what I'm talking about, because the Bears obviously don't need the help.
But they'll take it wherever they can, so they don't spend what they got.
Kathy says, hey, we got a new soccer field. we could put the tiny homes on the soccer field, though.
Given the fact that they're giving that CHA housing land to the isn't it the Chicago? Wait a minute. Didn't we report on this a couple weeks ago that CHA is giving land to the Chicago Fire, which is our soccer team? Yeah. Right?
That's right.
We have. Why can't we just put them in Soldier Field? Why can't we plan on giving the Chicago Fire the Soldier Field venue instead of giving away the CHA land that is not being developed to basically rehouse all of the CHA residents that got displaced, have been waiting for.
It was promised to.
Yeah, that was promised to.
Yep,
yeah.
For 2 decades. So
curious. Not really.
Should we
follow the
play
money
the
and
short,
things
play the
become
short
clear.
video?
Yeah, so the short video gets a little bit more into the what I was bringing up, which is like, this is probably not good for small business owners.
Win for the Bears. The Arlington Heights Village Board voted to reject a proposed anti-corporate welfare ordinance. There was a petition circling calling for a prohibition on the use of taxpayer money for any development related to the Bears' possible move to the suburb. Now, wording in the proposal was very broad, not just with the Bears. The conservative group backing the petition wants any municipal incentive that would benefit one business over another to be banned. Tax credits and small business loans from the village wouldn't be allowed. And Arlington Al Fresco, an initiative expanding outdoor dining in the summer, wouldn't happen either.
If a business is looking to relocate to a village, they're certainly not going to want to come to a place that can't provide them any kind of financial assistance.
Yeah, so
Village
it's
leaders
that
in
Al
Arlington Heights
Fresco thing I
unanimously
was pointing
voted
to.
no on that ordinance.
Yeah. That al fresco thing I looked into is like, what is that? They help a restaurant or something? No, but it's like they take care of parking for a certain period of time for the residents so that people can enjoy outdoor dining. So
Speaking of parking, were we covering that story tonight? I didn't see the show notes.
no, I don't think
We'll
so.
save it for Friday.
Okay, right on. I did not see a parking story.
Lainey shared it with us in the Slack earlier
Oh,
today.
that parking story.
Yeah.
Okay,
I still
yeah.
don't know what parking story. Damn it. I'm
All right,
not
well,
in
you
the
can check it.
loop.
You can check it out in the Slack. Lainey
Yeah,
had
join us on Friday to find out what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I always
The
listen on
parking
Sundays or
story.
Mondays. So, which when I listened on the Friday show, I found out about those business grants that they're giving out. I am totally applying for that.
Kira, Sunday night, or was it Saturday or Sunday night when the clock changed, when the date changed from the 2nd to the 3rd, I think I was like filling out that application in the first hour in the wee hours of the morning at 12
I'll be
a.m.
filling mine out tomorrow. I'm like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, I'm going to get myself a grant.
Kathy, we ran it. We did run it. I don't know if you saw it or not. Did she give us another $1 super chat? I thought we only get. Yeah, we ran it.
Yeah, well,
I saw one.
And by the way, just look, I'm all for like leprechaun clips for the super chats. Thank you. I just can't interrupt Kira or someone else who's talking when the super chats come in. So just be patient and we'll run them.
and then AG actually has a really funny comment about the Brian. He's just a Packers.
That's probably what it is. All right, but you know what? I'll give Kathy a freebie.
Yeah.
There you go, Kath.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so this was up until
For your patience, dear.
we still have a little bit of announcements at the end of the show, but we're gonna wrap up with a few items of good news. Huzzah! So I wanted to touch on a couple Black-owned businesses that are having big breakthroughs, which are really important to highlight and to keep our eyes on, especially because of certain promises that are being made with certain licensures. But let's get into, before I put the cart before the horse, I wanted to highlight Liz Abenaw's 40 Acres Fresh Market, which was one of 3 Black entrepreneurs to receive a $50,000 grant in unrestricted capital from the cookie brand famous Amos. And 40 Acres aims to address issues locals face in accessing free food by providing high quality groceries at affordable prices. Abenaw is in the process of transitioning 40 Acres from its pop-up market format into a brick and mortar, and they plan to open their brick and mortar in Chicago's Austin neighborhood. As part of the program, Abenaw and the other grant recipients will also receive mentoring, coaching, resources, and tools from the National Black Chamber of Commerce. And Abenaw, who has a Master of Business Administration from University of Chicago, said she's already benefited from having a network of friends and colleagues who have helped her figure out the logistics of how to start up and run a business. She says, quote, "I think if more small business owners, especially Black small business owners, had access to that type of network, you would see our businesses scale at a far greater rate and a faster pace. And that is what I am always talking about is networks. You know, people are very, very limited if they don't have the networks that get them the ins in places, including things like mentorship or people to just even like be there to pay attention to, you know, what it is as a possibility for you. She goes on to say, I've seen friends and family rounds for white entrepreneurs raise over $100,000. And many of us just don't have that level of wealth within our network to get us started. So we wind up grinding for a longer period of time, which is a huge piece that is a huge part of that equity is being able to put people in scenarios where they are with the kinds of people that can move things forward. So that is really great news. We'll keep our eyes peeled for the 40 acres farm or 40 acres fresh market rather. And then, and currently Avenaz is awaiting the issuance of the construction permit and doesn't have an opening date yet for the store. Shoppers can find 40 acres nearby as the anchor tenant for the weekly Austin Town Hall City Market. And then in other Black business ownership breakthroughs, Star Buds, which on Monday became the first licensed predominantly Black-owned cannabis business and the first craft grower to open its doors in the state. I found this story, you know, it's a good news story. I'm putting quotes on the good news because originally I think that the idea was that the licenses would be doled out to communities where this whole war on drugs has really impacted the most, i.e. Black communities. So I just also want to highlight that while this is a good thing here, this way undercuts what the original goal was with these licensures for cannabis businesses in Illinois for the Black community. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of research ahead of time for this story, but yeah, we've covered these things in the past where they were supposed to have given the opportunity for cannabis businesses to minorities first.
Yeah.
And then they more or less dropped the ball.
Well, basically.
Yeah. They gave the opportunities to all the bigger companies that wanted to come in after, you know, criminalizing everybody and throwing people in jail. Remember John Boehner, the big Republican, after he got out of politics, he went to join the board of a cannabis company, right? Aren't Republicans the ones who are always, you know, criminalizing marijuana and weed use? Of course, once it started to become legal, they're the first ones in line to try to prosper and profit from it. And that's what we were seeing happen here in Chicago with who was getting the priority to opening these dispensaries or these companies. So, you know, there it is.
I mean, to be fair, Boehner is orange. So
that's true. He was the original orange man.
The original, the original Republican Oompa Loompa.
Yeah, so that is some really uplifting news, and I'm
sorry, really quickly, backtracking really quick. I'm sorry, Kira. My brain sometimes is like, if I miss something, I'll forget what I was about to say. But important comment in the chat. I love this from AG. Cities should get part ownership of the team until the loan is paid off for a stadium.
Boom. There you go.
Thank you, AG.
Well, and that's the thing is like, that's why I brought up the Green Bay Packers or co-opting. I don't know if I said the Packers specifically, because that's what Green Bay does. Green Bay owns the Packers. And so the citizens actually benefit from having a football team in their town.
With their name. The Chicago Bears are moving to Arlington Heights. I insist they leave the name Chicago at the door. They're no longer the Chicago Bears.
So now
they've got,
it doesn't roll off the tongue that nice.
Yeah, right. That's what she said. They don't get the benefits of our name if they're going to bail on us after how good the city's been to them for all these decades.
They can just do the AH Bears so that they can say, Bears.
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 I think you should all know You should all know that I have absolutely every intention on making sure that we get the Bears to stay in Chicago. But if they don't, I have an idea for another football team in Chicago. It's going to be called the Chicago Beans. Chicago Beans. The Beans.
I love it. I love it.
The Chicago Beans.
they
Actually,
just-
it's not a
they-
bad
they
idea.
Jump around.
Ed,
the
I think
tennis
you know what.
awesome.
You know the great thing about Ed being part of our show is he's the very he's the he's our silent weapon. He always comes through with like the funniest shit that makes you and I crack up at the most unexpected moments, and we love you for that, Ed.
Yep. Always bringing the bean in too, man.
And the great thing is that it wouldn't be as expensive to modify all the logos because all you got to do is take out the R and change it with an N. In fact, you can just print the other side of the N onto the lowercase r, and you could save all those T-shirts and paraphernalia that you've already printed, and it'd just be Chicago Beans.
Right. Well, and also the C of the Bears, right? That C shape kind of looks like a little bit of a bean. You just close the one end of it. Boom! It's a bean.
Then, of course, I mean, obviously, you'd have to upgrade the chants and be da beans.
Da beans.
And don't forget
Bears.
don't forget my NASCAR initiative either.
That's right, everybody. That's right.
Wow.
All right.
And we could do a promotional song video based off of the Super Bowl Shuffle, but we'll call it the Super Bean Shuffle. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. All right. So there was one more thing I wanted to touch on really quick, and I'm just gonna breeze over it. I'm gonna story zero it, as Kit would say. Which is just another pre-election sweetener by Lori Lightfoot, basically expanding parental leave policy to allow 32,000 city employees up to 12 weeks of paid parental leave, whether they
That's
are
good news.
birthing or non-birthing parent.
Aren't the elections wonderful things? It's the only time our useless representatives get off their asses and do something. But I can guarantee you, like if she's reelected, it'll just all go back to normal. She'll just roll it all back. But look, let's take advantage of everything we can while we can.
Yep. Well, and we'll be able to watch for that. Well, I don't know. I don't know if she'll be reelected. I'm not sure.
I hope not.
I don't think so.
I think she's got so much money that and she's got the Democratic machine behind her. But we're gonna be continuing to talk to and hope to bring on some candidates onto the show that can get more attention to their campaigns to hopefully replace her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to Kathy's point, where it's like they treat employees like disposable tools. Basically, up until I think it's up until this point. I think dads didn't get any paternal leave. Mothers got like a few weeks, or they had to save up their sick days for their maternity leave, which is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Do you know how often you're sick as a pregnant lady too? Like how fucked up that is?
Yeah, just think of the family values that are being presented there. Or they always lean on the family values while they do nothing to help the families. Another just platitude.
Yep, that's accurate. And then one other thing I wanted to highlight, and I'm going to go to my phone for this. Damn it, my phone's dead. All right, let's talk about that. The action that's going on this weekend before I whoopsie-doopsie. Why did I?
I can bring that up.
Yeah, would you mind?
Yeah, let me find the graphic that was shared with us.
I've got it.
Okay, you've got it. Put it up, Ed.
Yeah. Just
We may or may not be. We may or may not be out covering this. We're going to determine, because there's something else happening that day also. There's going to be a rally in support of Lori Lightfoot, to which I'm hoping perhaps we can get out and ask the people participating in that rally why they're supporting her and what she's actually done to improve the city. In all fairness, so we have to figure out like the times of these events and figure out what we're going to hopefully go out and try to cover and get some feedback from Chicagoans.
And preferably, we it'd be nice to have some people doing some counteraction chants during the event. You know,
Lightfoot rally.
Yeah, it's like
I'm sure there will be.
I would
give
guess
us
so.
our TIF funds. We don't need another bean. I don't know.
Something like that. I think that's really catchy, Ed. We should write that one down.
I got to work on the rhymes today. I just didn't have time.
So yeah, this is something that Jessica Olsen talked about on our show, which is a national abortion and full reproductive rights action. So I had a feeling that when you brought this up to me, Jerry, that it was this action that we had talked about a month and a half ago. So check this out. It'll be in our show notes. If you wouldn't mind putting it in the show notes, Jerry, or
I will. And I do want to give fair credit. Actually, this was brought to my attention by one of our interns, Connor. Thank you for sharing this. And as I said, hopefully we'll see if we can get out there and cover this, depending on what the timing is on both of these events. And I also, when we're done covering this, I want to share what I shared with the rest of you on Slack regarding the Lori Lightfoot rally.
Yeah. Are we bringing that up? And this is a Lori Lightfoot supportive.
Oh yeah, I'll bring it up. Okay, so I found out about this Lori Lightfoot rally because apparently she's got my text number. Okay, and I get these texts all the time, so I want to share. Of course, my texts are not responded to when I text Lori Lightfoot's campaign back. But let me share with you guys. Here we go. I don't know if we can all read what's on.
I love how I was like, where, and there's no answer, but they didn't answer you any of the time.
Right. So, hi, it's Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Climate change is already affecting our most vulnerable communities. That's why my budget includes the largest environmental investment in Chicago's history. Support this work by chipping into my campaign at blah, 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 blah. I texted back, who gave you this number? Then March 31st. Hey, it's Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I love fighting for Chicago, and I'll never stop pushing for a safer, more equitable city. However, I'll need a grassroots support to continue that fight. Today is our most important fundraising deadline of 2022 so far. Can you help out? To which I responded, resign. Today. Hi, friend. Here's your weekend plans. Come hang out with Lori and Team Lightfoot this Saturday. We're rallying support of Mayor Lightfoot's commitment to the city. Stop to opt out. Can we count on you to join us this Saturday? And I wrote back, where?
Where? I love that. We'll go. We'll be there.
Over there.
Did they tell you
No,
where?
of course they didn't. Of course they
None
didn't.
of his texts are getting responded
Jerry,
to.
why are you ghosting me, Jerry? Why aren't you replying to my text messages? Come on, Jerry.
I have, but you're not responding to me.
That's it.
Jerry.
God
Come on.
damn it, Lori.
What the
God
hell?
Damn it.
That's terrifying. Please.
All
You know what?
right.
As we talk about the terrifying close-ups of Lori Lightfoot, I'm going to give a freebie again to
That's hard
to Kathy. Where is it here? As far as stop it, man, you're freaking me out. Here we go.
Is that me gold?
What the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
Here. This is what you're looking for, right?
Off my eyes, startling, help!
I'm the leprechaun. Garth, I'm the leprechaun.
Cool it, okay?
I'm the leprechaun.
Stop it, all right?
Don't try and steal me pot of gold.
Nice. All right, you guys. We're going to wrap her on up, and I'm going to do it right this time.
Yeah, I'll take us out if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead and take us out. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Ed, for joining me tonight. It's always a blast. So looking forward to when we get to do it again. You, Jerry and Ed, you can catch them on Friday at 7:30 here at Chicago Corner. And as for me, I'll see you next Tuesday.
Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
Hello again, it's me. What up? You're still here? Why? What is going on? Get out of here. Leave. GTFO. We're over. You're still...
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go. No.